Roundup of all the top stories this week and throw forward to what we can expect in the week ahead. And joining me now is a political editor at News24 Qaanitah Hunter. Qaanitah, a very good afternoon to you and thank you very much for making time to talk to me this Sunday. So I want to go straight to the lead in the front page of the City Press newspaper. That's part of the stable in which you are. And the lead story there is South Africa, India in vaccine war. What exactly is going on?
Yeah, so obviously you would know from the week that passed that South Africa had found out that the vaccines that had arrived through the Serum Institute of India were going to expire in April. And that obviously that was on the back of research that found that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine would not be effective in severe disease of the new variant, the new variant that has been found in South Africa. Yeah. And so obviously there has been a lot of sort of back and forth. We're now not rolling out that vaccine doses that had arrived, too much fanfare, and then there's obviously now a push for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which the president said in his State of the Nation address that 80,000 doses will be arriving within the next week or so. But now, obviously, there's this back and forth between the South African government and the Serum Institute of India as to, the expectation that the vaccine would have a 6-month shelf life at least, and then also just the cancellation of the order of the remaining doses. Now, remember, South Africa has already paid about plus 70 million for these vaccines, which now sort of set back our efforts to roll out and inoculate the population.
Qaanitah, and you see, that's exactly what South Africans like me become uncomfortable about. We've spent so much money, upwards of 70 million already for at least the batch that we know is here. When I read this article, there still isn't certainty about whether to use it, because it would appear, according to people like Shabir Mahdi, one of the leading scientists in the country, that it might be useful still to use these on people who perhaps are on possibly their way to hospital or near death. And these vaccines that are here now, they can be useful as far as that issue is concerned. But there is still not quite certainty about, indeed, whether they can be that effective. But then there's another issue linked to that, and that is that of the expiry date.
Absolutely. And I think South Africa is caught in a quagmire of multiple things, right? So the first hand is what the experts are telling them. And that obviously is a shifting goalpost, because what we've seen in terms of the science in COVID-19 is that they sort of figuring things out as we're going along. And obviously one would not expect them to work any differently because of how, recent, for example, is the discovery around the new variant, and how, ahead South Africa really is in terms of research in that regard, but also in terms of just the research around the vaccine. It's sort of happening every day. So on one hand, you need the experts to say, what do we do with what we have already? On the other hand, it was, South Africa really put all its eggs into this basket of waiting for these vaccines from India, so to at least start the process, because the healthcare workers were going to be, the test to see, how South Africa is going to actually roll out, because this is going to be a massive test. The president is right. It's going to be, a logistical nightmare. We've never had such a big rollout of anything, even though the 2010 World Cup was not as big as what this inoculation program would be for South Africa. And I think that this now delays us and puts a dampening spirit, a start to what was what was already going to be a very difficult process.
The standard procedure here, Qaanitah Hunter, by pharmaceutical companies or these companies that make these vaccines, isn't the standard procedure that a vaccine has a 6 months lifespan from the date of delivery? And if that's the case, surely the Serum Institute of India has robbed us blind.
Yeah, so that's the interesting bit, and I think that's going to be what's going to be interesting when we eventually get the details of the negotiations between the South African government and the Serum Institute, for example, to just get a sense of, were these things ironed out in the negotiations before the time? Because there's a very, very high chance that it probably was not, and that the Serum Institute does not believe it faltered in any regard. And I think that's why we're calling for such a high level of transparency from government in this regard, that yes, while there is all of these sensitivities around the procurement of the vaccines, it's really, really important for us to know exactly when did we do things, how did we do things, so that when things go wrong, as in this case, we can know who is actually accountable and who must carry the blame.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to another story that is carried in the front page of the City Press newspaper. And the headline is Zuma back to haunt ANC. This is one story that is not going away. If anything, Qaanitah, if we look ahead, it's probably going to be the talking point of the week up until the Zondo Commission gives us an update about who is going to appear tomorrow at that commission, if it's not going to be the former president.
Yeah, so the City Press has a story, as well as Sunday Times also leading with the Zuma angle. News24 carried some stories as well. This headache of the ANC. You remember last week, News24 reported that it was Mdumiseni Ntuli, the ANC KZN provincial secretary, saying that they had made a request to the ANC top six to intervene in the matter, because they said that Zuma could not be arrested. They believed that it will split the ANC apart. There was a quote where he said that, Zuma is not just an ordinary chap from Nkandla. You then saw the subsequent drama around the MK-MVA going there. They're now saying they're going to physically protect Zuma from a possible arrest. But you know that Zuma is in violation of a constitutional court order if he does not turn up the Zondo Commission in Johannesburg tomorrow, or at least, join in via Skype or Zoom. But the reality of it is that the ANC is in a very difficult position. The News24 reported yesterday that the president again said that that the Zondo Commission has to be respected, and he reiterated that point, that despite the evidence that will have to be tested by the commission, the commission itself has to be respected. And you saw the outcomes of that in the apology by Jesse Duarte, the ANC Deputy Secretary General, to Judge Zondo, because of that rather bizarre column that she penned this week. and so now the top six is obviously facing that decision to try to reason with a stubborn toddler, effectively, because the former president remains hell-bent that his constitutional rights have been violated and that he is not going to cooperate. He rather risks jail. He obviously knows that it's going to be a crisis for the ANC if he is eventually arrested. But we obviously the clock is ticking. Until the commission starts tomorrow to see what actually will happen.
Exactly, and that is the NEC meeting that we understand is still ongoing, Qaanitah. I'm not sure what your sources are saying to you, but the inclination was that there might have been an address by the president, as he usually does, to the NEC, that the closing of this NEC meeting was going to be opened up by the ANC to the media so that it can be beamed to all South Africans. Do we know whether that is still going to happen?
Yeah, obviously, it's quite fluid considering the debate in the NEC, and it has been quite tense. That's what the reporting that's coming out from the NEC, particularly on twofold. The first of which is there's this guidelines that was presented by Paul Mashutile to the NEC. That was the brainchild of Matthew Sposa, Kgalema Motlanthe, and other elders, Josiah Jele, for example. They had come together and set up a guidelines on what must happen when the ANC invokes its step aside resolution, which includes, you must step aside. If you don't do that, you must go to the Integrity Commission. If you fail, if they rule that you need to vacate your position and you don't, then you need to be disciplined, right?
Yeah.
So that there is that discussion around it, and it looks like from reports that it's been widely accepted. But the caveat of that is that if it is accepted, then it would have to apply to the Secretary General. And so obviously the fate of Ace Magashule hangs in balance. News24 reported this morning that at least 3 NEC members had manifestly said that that Ace Magashule must, help the party and just resign, considering the Integrity Commission has already ruled on his case. That was Ronald Lamola, Barbara Creasy, Diphole Tsatsi Duba. But obviously, it's a sort of still quite fluid, and I think also quite tense. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is. I think that you probably won't see a definitive outcome on the Secretary General, at least tonight or tomorrow. But I do think that the ANC has or Cyril Ramaphosa rather, has the predisposition to sort of kick the can further down the road. But not forgetting, Xoli, that Ace Magashule is appearing in court on Friday. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the party deals with that, while it has what the city press called the Zuma headache on its hands.
Yeah, Qaanitah Hunter, you summed it up well for us. Thank you very much for joining us, political editor at News24.